FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
This episode of the Financial Survival Network is brought to you in part by Sandstorm Gold Royalties. Sandstorm Gold Royalties is a different kind of gold company. They purchase royalties on select mining operations and receive a percentage of the revenue in return. Sandstorm now has a portfolio of over 185 gold royalties around the world. See how gold royalties differ from other gold mining investments at sandstormgold.com. That's sandstormgold.com. Sandstorm Gold Royalties trades on the TSX as SSL and on the New York Stock Exchange American as SAND.
Welcome, and you are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's October 16th, 2018. Well, we're in the political season now. Midterms, just 3 short weeks away. And, well, everybody has their own opinion. A lot of crazy behavior taking place, but a lot of books are getting released. It seems like if you want to write a book, there's only one thing to be writing about these days, and it's Donald Trump. But at least this book you're going to be hearing about is well, to quote the author, a comical quest celebrating our 45th president's incredible shakeup of the Washington establishment. But first, as always, we urge you to be part of the show and email us at kl@kerrylutz.com. So, author is Eric Metaxas, and his newest book is Donald Drains the Swamp by Regnery. It's coming out today, in fact, and we're thrilled to have you with us, Eric. Welcome.
Well, it's a privilege, and I got to tell you, I don't know who your people are, but you got the #1 spot. The book launches today. I'm doing all kinds of media. And you, my friend, my new friend, and your audience are the first people to hear me talk about this book. So congratulations. I don't know what you did to get the front of the queue, but I got to tell you, I'm excited about this book because in these politically divided times, right, I think we need humor. Some people know me as the author of these big books on Bonhoeffer and Luther and so on and so forth, but I also have written a lot of humor. I've written a lot of kids' books. I wrote for Veggie Tales, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could have kind of a fun humor book, like a children's book, but sort of for everybody, not just for kids, about what's going on in the country, to try to explain to kids kind of the general theme of what's going on in the country. What does it mean to drain the swamp? What does it mean to govern ourselves if you believe in limited self-government like the founders did? What does that all mean in a way that's fun? And so I came up with this book. Originally, the title was Donald the Caveman, and now the title is Donald Drains the Swamp. This is the first in a series. Maybe the second one will be Donald Builds the Wall. I don't know. But he's a caveman, and he confronts the swamp creatures. Now, it's a bipartisan swamp, to be very clear.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a GOP swamp. It's not a Democratic swamp. It's a bipartisan swamp. I don't want to give it away, but if you look at the pictures, you just may recognize some people that you know in the swamp.
Yeah, well, the denizens of the swamp, and for those of you that don't understand this analogy, why Washington, D.C. is called the swamp is because originally it was a swamp, and it's largely built on landfill and infill, and that's why.
But the swamp came back.
Yeah, but the swamp has become metaphorical now. The
swamp came back, and it's now the secret is that the swamp, of course, why do all the swamp creatures live in the swamp? It's a mystery, right? But Donald, when he goes down there, he kind of notices that the color of the swamp, it's not the normal green swamp color. Then he realizes it's actually the green color of money, and then he realizes it is money. The whole swamp is filled with money, which explains why all the swamp creatures live there and don't want anyone else to live there, and why they're the only ones that get access to the king. The king doesn't talk to all the cave people who live beyond the swamp. They think that they're kind of, deplorable, to coin a phrase. And so only the swamp people talk to the king. And Donald says, hey, that's not right. What are we going to do about this? And that's when it occurs to him there's only one thing to do. We got to drain the swamp. Yeah. And a lot of people think, oh, you can't do that. You can't say that. You're going to offend people. But he's like, hey, there's really no way around it. We've got to drain the swamp. So it's funny. The first swamp creature that he encounters, by the way, is the Labiosaurus.
The Labiosaurus Rex?
The Labiosaurus. The Labiosaurus is the first swamp creature. And then there's other swamp creatures. But the biggest, baddest swamp creature, the nastiest swamp creature, is the Georgosaurus.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a Hungarian dinosaur.
Yeah.
Some people will be familiar with it, but it really is. It's just meant to be fun and funny and silly. But I think we need to laugh right now, and so this is a book that I think that if you're getting down or if you're feeling discouraged about what's going on in the country, this is really just meant to cheer us up a little bit. Let's have some fun and let's celebrate the larger thing that's going on in the country.
Absolutely. Hey, so there's a problem, though, with your premise, and you know what that is, don't you?
No, I don't.
Well, the problem is you're trying to deal with humor, and at least half the country, or at least half of the swamp, they're Democrats, and they've lost their sense of humor. They have zero.
Well, I know, but I think there's a lot of good people in the middle that maybe they're Democrats, or maybe they used to be Democrats, and they're not sure what to think. And I think this book will help us all kind of, take a chill pill and enjoy things a little bit, maybe see it from a different perspective. That's why it's a bipartisan swamp. And let's be honest, Donald, the hero of the story, he's a caveman. And isn't he a little bit of a caveman? I mean, that's to me the joke. It's sort of delightful. He's a good caveman,
Like Fred Flintstone.
But I got to tell you, it's something that I think a lot of my friends in the middle have appreciated it. And that's kind of what I'm hoping, that it's not just going to be those of us who are already on board, but people who, maybe you have a friend that doesn't like the president or whatever. And, this is kind of a fun way to talk about the subject. At least that's my goal. I've written a lot of humor over the years. When I was at Yale, I was the editor of the Humor magazine, and I've written humor for the New York Times and for all kinds of stuff. I just think sometimes humor is a way to talk about something, and it makes it safe. Everybody wants to laugh. Everybody wants to, tease each other. And I thought there's a way to do it that's not mean-spirited, because I don't want us to add to the mean-spirited divisiveness. Let's celebrate what's happening, and let's joke with a smile. It's kind of a Reagan-esque happy warrior attitude,
Sure. But Eric, look, when was the last time that Nancy Pelosi laughed? I don't know that Chuck Schumer has ever laughed.
Those people are lost. If they ever want to laugh, they're going to have to make that decision. But the point is that those people are not going to. There's some people that have dedicated themselves to not laughing. They're bitter. They're angry. You can't talk to those people, and to try is to cast pearls before swine, to quote a famous philosopher. So I got to say that this is really for people who still have an open mind, or people who love this president, as I have come to over time. I did not. I'm a New Yorker. But I think that, we need to try to have the long view and to have a few laughs along the way. And I think Donald the Caveman kind of sums things up for a lot of people, and he's kind of a folk hero. I think sometimes as president at these rallies and stuff, he comes across like some kind of an American folk hero. You think, why are so many people just having such a ball at these rallies? And I think that kind of explains it a little bit.
Hey, and I kind of think he's a combination of maybe Andrew Jackson meets Elmer Gantry. And look, Eric,
I would not go in the Elmer Gantry direction, but I know what you mean. It's just it's crazy. But the beauty of it to me is that we have checks and balances. He's only the president. People sometimes act like he is the king or he's the dictator. It's like no. In America, we get the last say. We've got checks and balances. We get to vote. People need to take that seriously. I wrote another book called If You Can Keep It, which is for adults, but it's about all of this stuff we're talking about on an adult level.
Sure.
And I think that Americans need to re-educate themselves on why this is a great country and why we are obliged to govern ourselves. We can't farm it out to people. They're our representatives, but they really need to be held accountable. We need to vote. So I have a really positive view of things right now, I have to say. But, we've all part.
Yeah, well, hey, if you just tuned in, talking with Eric Metaxas and the book that he's just written that's being released today, and we're the first outlet to interview him, Donald Drains the Swamp by Regnery, and I guess you can get it wherever fine books used to be sold.
If you don't see it in your bookstore, bother the manager, because it should be everywhere at this point. Today's the day.
All right, today's the day. So, Eric, I find Trump to be one of the funniest people I have ever met. Now, I would quote unquote call it a relationship with him. I once represented him on a couple of minor legal matters, but I spent a few hours with him, and I just spent the whole time laughing hysterically. He's one of the funniest guy, and yet I don't know.
You're the only person besides me who has ever said that I've heard, because to me, that is what makes him such a winner, is that he's hilarious. I mean, he's got this way of talking that is so entertaining, I find myself howling. And I suspect half of the country would agree with us. This guy is, they broke the mold. And I have to say that a lot of people are celebrating that, and I find myself to be one of them, but I wasn't always one of them. I really was not a fan 3-4 years ago. Definitely not.
Yeah, well, I wasn't a fan until I walked in his office, and he made a comment on my partner and my appearance. He said, "You guys are lawyers, aren't you? Because you don't look like any lawyers I've ever seen." And I mean, we just burst out hysterical laughing, and we just had like the best time with the guy. He's funny, but yet very few people to the left are able to grasp his humor, and it's not that sublime. It's not that sophisticated. That any person.
It has nothing to do with sophistication. It has to do with your attitude. I think in time, many people that are not on board will get on board. I think as
on the Trump
some of the
train?
things he's been able to do actually get some of the things he's been able to do are accomplished, and the economy continues to do well, and we continue to feel safe from terrorists, and we feel that I think that people will respond to that. He can be a rough figure, we know, but I think that in the end, what he's doing is right for the country. And when I say right for the country, I mean right for everybody, not for conservatives, for everybody in the country. So I am really excited. I'm excited that he got Pastor Brunson out of Turkey. I mean, a lot of great stuff.
It's called winning.
No matter where you stand, you have to take your hat off. So I think I am hopeful, to be quite honest. I'm really hopeful.
Yeah. Well, I'm guardedly optimistic, as with any thing to do with the political system, because they will always find a way to screw things up. Politicians, that's why they live. Yeah. So humor. Let's talk about humor. Not totally out of the political context. Okay, the core of humor. What makes something funny?
Well, that's hard to say. People often have said you cannot dissect humor. Mark Twain famously said you can't dissect humor. If you dissect humor, it's like a frog. You kill it. I don't agree. I think that in the end, humor is subjective, of course, but even though it's subjective, there are some themes we can pull out. And as I say, I've written a lot of humor. If people go to my website, which is just my name, ericmetaxas.com. I've written a lot of humor, and I've done a lot of humor, and I think that ultimately, and this is why Trump is so good at it, it has to do with speaking the truth that others are unwilling to speak. Typically, that's the hallmark of much humor, that when you say something that everybody knows but isn't quite sure whether they can say, when you say it, it's as if it leaps from their unconscious to their conscious mind, and as it leaps, it kind of tickles them on the way out, and they laugh. And I really think that is fundamentally at the heart of what humor is. I really have studied humor. I take it seriously. If you can take humor seriously, I take it very seriously.
Absolutely.
And I think that That's at the heart of it. Now, some of it's more complicated than that, but I think it's very important, and it's at the very heart of what it is to be human. And people who don't laugh are not
They're a drag.
fully human.
Who wants to be with them?
You need to be able to laugh at yourself. You need to recognize your own foibles, your own sins, your own mistakes. And when you can do that, you can have some perspective. That's what it is to be human, to have some perspective on ourselves.
Absolutely.
And I think that, that's one of the things that unites us, no matter where we're coming from. And I think it's important to laugh. So people who are so serious that they can't laugh, I think they've got a real problem. And I don't think it's going to go well for them. Ultimately, you have to laugh, you have to cry. And if you're not willing to do those things, you're an angry person who is suppressing the most vital part of your humanity. So I say that in all seriousness, that we've got to have the long view.
I always say a day without laughter is like a day without life. So let's talk about some guys who've been really funny over time. Rodney Dangerfield, one of my personal favorite comedians. Why was that guy so damn funny? Eric, why?
The answer to that, I don't have a clue. I mean, why somebody's funny, I think that, he played a character, right? He plays the sad sack or whatever, and you identify with it. You all know somebody like that, and he's just, it's just that, exactly to explain why somebody like that is funny, I don't know. I have to say that funny is funny, but at the same time, and I know there are people that say, most men think the Three Stooges are funny and women don't find it funny. So it's kind of subjective, but I have my own favorites too.
Like Johnny Carson, all right? He wasn't a stand-up comic, but he could do stand-up comedy. He was funny when he'd be interviewing you because he'd pull out the funny parts of your character, and he just was a master of it. And humor, the only reason I'm asking you, I mean, not just to fill the time, but I'm genuinely curious because to me, humor is so, so important. It is vital. It is part of the human spirit, the human psyche. And I feel like really developed civilizations have really developed senses of humor. They've got these comedians who can just go onto a stage and talk and make you laugh. And then we'd look, and I'm going to bring it back to politics. We look at late night TV now, and look, if you were the kind who enjoys 25 Donald Trump jokes in a row about
that's the
Michael
problem.
Cohen's
I think
haircut.
There's humor and there's humor. There's that. I'll be honest with you. I don't think that is most of it is actual humor. I think people are bitter and they're angry and they want somebody to say what they're thinking. But real humor cuts in every direction, and I just think that. It's kind of gotten. It's kind of like when people work dirty and they're dropping F-bombs and saying nasty stuff and people laugh. That's called cheap humor. It's called going low. You can do that politically too. You can say, I'm going to smash my opponent because everybody here agrees with me. Those are the cheapest laughs. They're worth almost nothing. So to me, it's lamentable. I really wish we had a Johnny Carson who, and in my own, I have a radio show, by the way, again.
Oh, you do?
People just know my name, Eric Metaxas. I have a daily radio show. We try to be funny in the kind of way that, almost everybody can appreciate it, not just people that agree with us. But that's a challenge.
I totally agree with you. And humor, like we were saying, it's so vital to a normal functioning human being that you look, laughter is the best medicine, and we have reported cases of people actually healing themselves by nonstop laughter, the old Norman Cousins thing.
Well, guess what? The Bible says that I'm a Christian. I think the Bible is the Word of God, and so if the Bible says that laughter is important, I take that really seriously. There's something about being human that if you laugh, it really allows you. It's almost like a cleansing thing. There's something about it. It's an equalizer. It levels everybody. there's something really important about that. So yeah. I'm with you. Believe me, I've dedicated my life to making people laugh. Not, of course, not in this interview. We're being very serious, but I joke around a lot. As I mentioned, I've written a lot of humor on my radio program. We're cracking jokes constantly. I think that it is important to have a good attitude and to laugh. It is one of the most fundamental human things. So yes, I do.
Yeah, I didn't know we were being serious, but thanks for clearing that up for me.
We're being serious. Right now we're being serious. Deadly serious. That's right.
We're serious, as some people say. So, when you look at what passes for humor, so one of Trump's greatest rhetorical tools is ridicule. And what is ridicule but belittling your opponent with humor, correct?
Yeah. And by the way, you know who did that? Abraham Lincoln was a genius.
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln did that all day long. There's a new book. I talked about it on my radio program. It's called Lincoln's, I think it's called Lincoln's Sense of Humor. And I just did an hour-long interview with the guy on Lincoln's sense of humor. And you start realizing that because Lincoln was killed, we forget that the man was a riot, that he was brilliantly funny. And I really think that this president, as you said, is brilliantly funny, and that it goes a long way toward explaining his ability to overcome his opponents. When you can call, a crooked Hillary Clinton, when you say crooked Hillary, how many people, including people who might have voted for her, go, you know what, man, he got that one. It's very funny that he has the ability to do that. Or Crying Chuck Schumer. Crying Chuck Schumer, by the way, may make an appearance in my book, Donald Drains the Swamp. If you're looking at Donald Drains the Swamp, it is possible that your eyes may see Crying Chuck. I don't want to put that on people. It just might happen to some people that you might recognize Crying Chuck. If it happens, you're not crazy.
Okay, I like that. So the point here is the ability to marshal humor. It can be the most effective rhetorical argumentative technique available to a politician, yet so few of them do it. How do we get more humor in your life, and how do we get more humor in society here? You've written a book, that's a good start, but how do you find the humor in life?
Well, that's a deep question. I think the question, first of all, is, can we be honest about ourselves? Can we be honest about ourselves? As I said, I was raised in the church, but I didn't really take it seriously until I was in my mid-20s, and I kind of thought, you know what? The Bible says I'm a sinner. It says God loves me even though I'm a sinner, even though I basically am ultimately selfish. Even when I'm trying to be selfless, I'm selfish most of the time. And I think that's a really healthy way of seeing ourselves, that we can't help it, that somehow, there's this thing called the fall where we were created as these extraordinary beings made in God's image, and then there was the fall, and there was a brokenness. And I think sometimes seeing the fact that we're broken, seeing the fact that we're all screwed up is really healthy. And when you see it, you can make a choice, first of all, to say, okay, now I know this about myself. So part of that is I'm going to laugh at it. And I'm not going to laugh at it because it's not serious, but I'm going to laugh at it because it's the human condition. And if we recognize it, then we can laugh at it and we can all work together to do something about it. I just think it's at the very heart of what it means to be human. And if you deny it, if you're some socialist utopianist who thinks that, no, if we just have a little more technology and we divert these funds and a few more laws, we can create a utopia, you are going to be fundamentally humorless. You're going to be like, Mao Zedong's Red Army. You're going to be like, Hitler's brown shirts. You're going to have zero humor because you're going to be full of yourself. That, to me, is how we become, how we really dehumanize ourselves. And when you dehumanize yourself, you dehumanize other human beings by definition. That's, of course, what anyone does who doesn't recognize who we really are and that everyone is equal in the eyes of God. So we're getting into some big philosophical stuff here, but I think I'm glad I have to go because I realize this is so serious. People are going to think we never joke.
Yeah, well, hey, a little more humor in your life. If you could laugh 2 or 3 more times per day, and maybe buying Eric's book is could be a start of you doing that, which is Donald Drains the Swamp. It's released today. It's at Regnery Books. Hey,
if you don't laugh at this book, something's wrong. Let me put it on the line.
Yeah.
If you don't laugh at something in this book, you read it again. There is something in it for everybody, and honestly, humor is so important. I did if people follow me on Facebook or on Twitter, they can see I did a live reading of the story. So if you want to know what's in it before you buy it, follow me on Facebook, and you can click and watch me do a live reading with my radio co-host, Albin Sater. And, if you like it, please tell your friends. I really, really think we need more of this. We need to celebrate who we are as Americans. We need to celebrate what American-style self-government looks like. We need to take that seriously, but we can laugh even as we take it seriously. So, I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Hey, when you do laugh, just next time, observe what happens to your body and your mind. Observe the fact that self-doubt, self-criticism, all of these negative emotions seem to leave your mind almost instantaneously from the first chuckle, and that you are somewhat transported to a different state of mind, a different state of being. So the next time you're feeling bad, think about that, because it makes all the difference between a happy person and a sad person. Eric, hey, thanks so much. Just tell us, where is your website? How do we find out about your radio show?
My website is just my name, ericmetaxas.com. If you just type in my name, Eric Metaxas, on the internet, it's impossible. There are not too many Eric Metaxases out there, trust me. So you'll find me right away. I've got a radio program. I'm on Facebook. If you follow me on Facebook, you will see what I'm talking about. Just last night, we did it was a hilarious time, a lot of joking, and I was able to, and if you want to order a signed book for almost no money, it's like, I don't know how they're doing this, but just go to my Facebook page and you can get a signed copy of the book. And I honestly, I think that the main reason I wrote this book is I hope people who like this president will give a copy of the book to people who maybe don't like the president, and see if they laugh. Mm-hmm. See if they laugh, because if they laugh, maybe you can have a conversation.
Maybe. And the spelling of your last name, Eric, Metaxas. So Google him. Follow him on Facebook and wherever else. Eric, thanks so much. Hey, and while you're at it, when you're Googling Eric, just send us an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Be a part of the show, the Twitter feed @KerryLutz, Facebook page, Financial Survival Network.
Yes, and if you quote me when you put this interview out on Twitter, if you quote my name so I can see it, I can retweet it and more people can hear it. So whatever you can do, that's great.
All right, excellent. Hey, if you're on YouTube listening to this, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Eric, it's been a pleasure. Good luck on the book.
My pleasure. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.